Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of We're Gonna Need a Bigger Show. Cam, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's been a little while.
Couple weeks. Yep.
Yep. Today is a very special day, very special episode. Continuing our month-long celebration of all things horror and Halloween, we have with us today the star of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Mark Patton. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So, we'll just jump right into it. As I said before we went on, we really appreciate you doing this. And we've got a lot to talk about. You've got a new documentary coming out, and we'll jump into that in a little bit. But first, I was wondering if you could kind of tell us, just growing up, did you always know that you wanted to be an actor, or did you always know that, did you have like any leanings towards horror, or, did you have any interest in those kind of things growing up?
Yeah, I was always I guess I was always like a little star in the making. I mean, that's sort of the role I played in my family. My family is very musical, and I grew up in the Midwest and Midwest South, really, and grew up singing country and western music, and that's really what everybody thought I would end up doing is going to Nashville and being a country and western singer, and then I did drama and whatnot in high school, and I was very successful at it. And when it came time and I was a gymnast, so when it came time to choose what I was going to do, I sort of flipped a coin, and I moved to New York when I was 17, and that's how the decision really got made. It was like I was either going to Nashville, Los Angeles, or New York City, and really the deciding thing was, in a strange way, the drinking age was 18 in New York, and it was 21 in the other two states, and I was only 17. So I thought, I want to be an adult. And I also really, really wanted to be on Broadway. So I hopped a plane with $132 and a one-way plane ticket, and on February 18th, I just hit the road and I moved to New York.
Wow.
I could totally see young Mike Patton as Mark.
I'm
what
Mac.
what
I'm
is
Mike.
wrong with
He's
me?
Mark.
Okay, yeah, getting confused here. With like the Dwight Yoakam get up, the jeans that are maybe a little high waisted, and the hat and everything. I think, maybe it's not too late for that.
Oh no. I always wanted. Actually, I wrote a movie, a film script with Michael Murphy and Joel Swanson, the line producers from Nightmare on Elm Street too, and they also did like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and like most of New Line stuff. So and it was about a family of gospel singers actually, and one of the boys broke away and became a country and western singer, and we had that in development for many, many years, and I would still love to do something like that, but I sang like slit your wrist kind of honky tonk music. So I could I could really like a life in a blue light in a smoke filled bar would have suited me just fine. I wouldn't even need to be a headliner or anything. I just get up there and live the life. But go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, so from New York, I mean, Nightmare didn't really come into your life until LA, is that correct?
That's correct. It's actually, New York and Los Angeles, once you begin to work, are like the front yard and the backyard. It's like they really are the same place. And you use them for different reasons. Now, I made my break into show business really basically through making commercials, which New York was a great place to do that, because I looked very young, and I didn't need a teacher and all that kind of stuff on set. So I had like a real advantage that way, and you make really good money. And you get in the union, and that is the most important thing. And then, so I started doing those commercials, and I made a lot of commercials, for like McDonald's and just anything, Big Red Gum, McDonald's, Listerine, Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, whatever. And then I started.
Were there any of those that were particularly memorable to you that we might be able to find somewhere on YouTube or something?
Yeah, actually, you can find that. One of my favorite ones is on YouTube for sure. I can send you the link to it if you want. It's for Big Red Gum. Kiss a little longer.
Oh, sure.
You remember that? And so anyway, so when I interviewed for it, did my audition, you lie about your age, of course. And at this point, I think for this commercial, I was 21 years old, or 20, 21 years old. And I had said that I was 15, which I looked 15. And then you have to show your identification when you're signing in. And so I went to the director and said, I lied about my age. And so I'm really like 20, 21 years old. And they don't have a problem with that. It's just as long as you look good. But they did have a problem because the girl that I was going to be kissing had lied about her age also, but she was only 12. So, and she had said she was 16, and she looked 16. I mean, she looked older than I did, and so they had to figure it out a little different. So we don't actually kiss, we're playing golf, and I have my arms around her and we're like hitting golf balls, and it really like looks like I'm giving it her up the back door. And it's so much nastier than if we had kissed, but so that was really embarrassing. And on I did a Century Life commercial that ran for like 4 years, which was amazing. Amazing money. And I got arrested by the police while I was doing that because I ran a stop sign, and I said to the cop, we're making a commercial, and he was like, I don't really give a fuck what you're doing. He just ran a red light, and he wanted a bribe, of course. So he was but I was sitting in a car with a camera in the front seat and makeup artist, and I mean the whole thing's rigged, and they're just filming the whole thing, and I'm like, and the policeman's like very serious. I want your driver's license, and I'm in a costume, so I don't have my driver's license with me. And the director's going, keep shooting, and I was just like, I was terrified that I was going to be thrown in the hoosegow, but I made it through. And I think both of those are on the and of course I cry in almost every commercial I'm in. I cry. I'm not the happy boy. I'm I made commercials for Japan, and Japan for Nestle's. I was the spokesman for Nestle's chocolate in Japan, and they make like 4-minute mini movies, and I was always brokenhearted and sad, and it was raining, and my girlfriend had left me, and I play sing lady, and you just that was kind of fun too. But you can't find those. I had a huge fan club in Japan for a long time, and I had a phone, like an 800 number where you could call and talk to me, and not actually, you could hear my voice. And they would say, what kind of girl do you like? And I like a petite girl who's 5'2", and has dark hair and brown eyes and likes baseball, and and
right, the all-American image and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm the all-American guy, and I'm looking for the perfect little Japanese girl. So, sure. And I would get fan mail from these ladies, and they seemed like they were like 12, but they were really like 20, and they would send me like $100 for stamps. Very, very polite, and everything was always, the letter was in Japanese, but then translated into English for me, and they'd send self-addressed stamped envelopes, and really sweet, really, really sweet stuff. And my friend Dean Pitchford, who wrote Fame, he offered to write a 45 for me and release it there, but I didn't do it, and I should have. But I could have been the David Hasselhoff of Japan, or Sean Cassidy or something like that.
So having a country western career in Japan.
Yeah, well, actually, country and western is really big in Japan, so I would have done really well. But right then, I was actually breaking into Broadway at that point, and my ship was about to come in the United States, so I was really excited just to focus on what I was doing.
Had you done a production of Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean on Broadway before the film?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, it was the exact same cast, and the director, everybody with all the principals were the same. So, and we did it on Broadway, and then we took a 2-week vacation and then shot the movie. And
Okay.
and Robert Altman actually directed the play on Broadway because he had, he won many Academy Awards, and he was, a genius, but like nobody wanted to give him money to make a movie. So,
Sure.
so he had to sort of con his way into getting some money, and this is how he did it. And it just turned out to be of course, it launched Cher's career as an actress, and she was offered Silkwood while we were doing the show, and then Kathy Bates, of course. It was her first Broadway show and her first movie, and everybody actually in the entire cast has won an Academy Award except me, and I'm holding out hope that it's like, because I had a dream when I was in the show that we all won Academy Awards, and like as the years went by, everybody else won one, and I quit the business, of course. And I'm like, God, how am I going to get my Academy Award? And
Well, it's not too late yet.
Yeah, the way my life has turned around, honestly, I wouldn't rule it out. So, you might see me up there like at 90, like grabbing that statue and running down the aisle with it. But
truthfully, I don't think anything in this world would make me happier than to see that. I think that would be absolutely incredible.
Oh, thank you. You will think about it. It's like, Jackie Earle Haley. I have started being offered movies, and I'm doing some movies right now. But Jackie hadn't worked in 20 years.
Sure.
And it was nominated for an Academy Award. And he literally and he knew it. He knew the minute it was happening. And I knew that I was going to, for some strange way, I knew that my acting career wasn't over. And, in the back of my mind, I just always knew that. And when I did Never Sleep Again, when Tommy and those guys came and found me, because I lived down here in Mexico, so they had hired detectives to find me, because I was off the grid. And I filmed Never Sleep Again like the day that was their last day of shooting. That was it.
Sure.
And it opened up all these doors for me, which led. I made a film in Germany already, one in Berlin, and I'm shooting one in Palm Springs next month. I'm shooting one this month, and I'm in talks to shoot several more. And of course, we're doing the documentary, which is pretty intense. And I'm being offered representation and a lot of work. So it's actually come onto the table that I need to actually open a house again in Los Angeles to go back to work. So and I have a friend who actually was my acting coach's wife. I always had to be her partner and I hated it because she was like 50 years old and I was young, and it would make us do like Hamlet together and stuff like that. And I think, why do I get stuck with the old lady, And she was like, I'm a serious actress. She had been a Broadway dancer, and she just kept studying and studying and studying. And I think her first big break movie was About Schmidt, with Jack Nicholson. And then she was nominated last year for the Academy Award for Nebraska. Her name is June Squibb. And she was like in her 80s. Do you know what I mean? And it's like June did not really start working until she was 70. And, and she just stuck with it. And, it all, and she used to say to me, and I really believe this, she would say, you know what, there are no rules in show business. And I always believed that, I never thought a rule applied to me in show business, because if I believed it, I would have never done anything. But I just think, the rules are for somebody else. It's like, if it's meant to be and I say it's going to happen, then it happens. And that's been my experience.
I think the interesting thing, Cameron and I were both filmmakers, and that was kind of why we started to do the podcast a couple years ago. We wanted to talk to the people we admired and the films that we grew up with, and pay tribute to that. But it's been interesting talking to people who have gone through all of these different stages in their careers, and we have found that to be exactly true. That really the rules, as they're explained to you, when you look into filmmaking or when you try to be an actor or any of that, it's quickly becoming a world where those rules don't apply, and you kind of have to make your own way, and you kind of have to do it the way that you see fit. So I definitely connect on that level.
Yeah, it really is one of those. Life is who really.
Mm-hmm.
When it gets really down to it, and show business is certainly who and I mean that's the easiest way in, right? And going to conventions, I found myself in a convention in California, and I really couldn't believe I had been invited into this, because it wasn't a horror convention. It was a big celebrity convention for people who had won like Academy Awards and whatnot. And I was like between Piper Laurie and John Savage, who I love John Savage. And I spent the afternoon, talking with him about Deer Hunter, and he was like, well, he wanted to do a stage version of the play that had made him famous, American Buffalo, originally as a young boy, and he wanted to play the old man now. And we sat and talked about that, and I put him in contact with some friends of mine in New York, and they began that conversation of actually making that thing happen, and that kind of is the way. It really only just takes one person to say,
sure,
okay, I'm doing this movie, and would you step in and do it? And then you're as good as your resume is as good as the last thing you did. So,
sure.
So I'm keeping my mind wide open on this one, so, and I'm having a lot of fun. The documentary's been a lot of work, but it's like, and it's been 5 years of slave labor, but it's been exciting too at the same time.
Before we,
do you like being at this point in your life, and maybe getting back into acting and having these opportunities in front of you, do you feel like you're having some of the same feelings and emotions that you did when you were starting out as a younger person?
Yes, that's a really interesting question. Yes, I do. I know we don't want to delve into the documentary too much before we talk about Nightmare on Elm Street and whatnot, but the Nightmare on Elm Street, Never Sleep Again, unlocked a key inside of myself where I thought I was very resolved with what had happened in my life. And I thought I knew what had happened, and I should be proud of myself for how far I had gone. And then I went on to have another career, and I was successful at that. And I had a successful life, But that opened a door that began to wake me up at night. And as I began to contemplate, the way they had told the story, and the way, they just asked questions, and they were very straightforward about that. They just let people say whatever they wanted to say. And so, the truth of the matter is some people lied. Or they just made a joke of it, and it was great. And there was a lot of information, and it was really fun. But it's like I was in there at the last minute, and I had, I'd called out David Chaskin as being a liar, and they brought him back in to refilm him after that. And as the bomb started to tick, I began to realize just how furious I was. I mean, I was really angry, and I was really mad, and I was mad at myself, and I felt, all of a sudden I realized I felt like I had wasted this amazing opportunity, that I was on the pinnacle of becoming a real star, and I had thrown it away, and I got really mad at myself. And so I've had to sort of work through that. And as I go about doing what I'm doing now, it's like I feel myself going through these stages of because I really do believe this, and I mean, for your listeners and for young people, it's like get out a piece of paper and write things down, because I really do believe that your like word is really powerful, and whatever your intention is, and it's like if you say this is what I'm going to do, and you really have your intention behind it, it'll happen, and it won't happen maybe in the way that you think it will, but it's on its way, you know, because that's what we do. We create things. So, and I've been on this struggle, you know, like we had been pushing this documentary up the hill for like a couple of years now, and hard work. And then when it started to roll down the hill, which is what it's doing now, it rolls really fast. And it's like all of a sudden, it's like my life is already out there pretty strong, but it's like this is a real statement. This documentary is a big statement. It's not a small statement, and it's like it's controversial, and it is and it's not light. It's fun, but it's not a light romp. And you haven't seen anything like it yet, I think. And so and I'm like, oh my God, do I really want to do this? You know, and it's like now it's too late to back out.
Sure.
You know, and it's like there's my face all over the, you know, the screen, kind of like. And now once again, I'm a public person, you know what I mean? And being a public person is, you know, it's, you know, once you're famous, you're always famous. Yeah, and so it comes with its really good sides, and it comes with its really bad sides. You know, it can be very kind of. I've like learned not to read the comments in anything.
Sure.
Because like it's a hater's world out there, you know, and it's also filled with lovely people, but like there are a lot of people who are just like sick, you know.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and that's what they do, is they just go and they like chomp on people. And so I've learned not to like engage with that, you know, and not to now we have a lot of it in the documentary, you know.
Right.
So so I had to listen to a lot of it, and you know I'd heard it before because of the film, right? Because of Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Like when we you know, when we began to shoot that movie, you know, little did I know what effect that was going to have on, you know, my life.
Well, to talk about that a little bit, I mean, so, you know, I mean, I feel like, well, I guess before, you know, the last 20 minutes or so, I felt like everything that needed to be said about the franchise, and specifically part two, had been said. But to hear you say, you know, that there's definitely a different story there, I mean, you know, just from hearing what you had to say and what the you know, the rest of the cast and crew had to say, it definitely seemed like there was a lot of different stories being told, and that maybe the truth of it wasn't exactly there. I mean, what was the entire experience like for you? I mean, was it as polarizing as it comes off in the documentary? I mean,
well, when we were shooting, it was really fun. You know, I mean, it's like it's fun to be a movie star. I mean, it's like
Sure.
to be the star of the movie. I wish everybody could do it at least one time, because there's nothing quite like it. You know, I mean, it's like, and I was excited. It wasn't really until halfway through the movie that I really realized the direction that the film was going into, and I really wasn't. You know, I really wasn't scared. I mean, I talk about it. I mean, but I had just played a transgendered person, you know what I mean? So I wasn't afraid of that. You know what I mean? It was like, but the way that it was being done, I became very afraid of. And then the backlash against it was really harsh. And I have to say I didn't like that at all. And the thing is, you know, everybody, all those guys in Never Sleep Again said, you know, well, we didn't know anything, and we didn't know anything, and we didn't know anything, and we didn't understand. And actually, in our documentary, you know, we interact with each other in real time. You know, in Never Sleep Again, you were alone in the room, and then they cut it. In our documentary, we're all together, and I think some of it's going to blow the top of your head off. I mean, it's like Robert Ressler is the one that breaks the whole thing open, where, you know, Jack is kind of saying, well, I never understood, what the gay thing. And, he was still sort of like going on about that. And it's sort of protective of David because David had backed out. David Chaskin had backed out of this. We're filming him actually later this month. And he had backed out. And there's some pretty harsh stuff about David in this. And Robert could go as far as he go, and then finally he was like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Robert Ressler, and he was like, you know what, Jack, I talked to you for a week before we started filming about this, and I said, there's no way these boys would have become friends. Why am I pulling his pants down? All of that kind of stuff. We talked very specifically about the fact that Jesse was gay. And you can't sit here and say that you didn't know because you and I talked about it for a week,
Right.
And that opened the door to the conversation becoming very real. And, and Jack is kind of the antagonist in the documentary where he'll just say and that's the way he was on the film also. It's like, well, you just need to get over this. And,
well, he says that in the pitch video for the documentary, and we're jumping around, and that's fine because this is. I think it's important to talk about that now. Is that he comes off very antagonistic in Never Sleep Again. In the pitch video for your documentary, he comes off as antagonistic. It just seems like that's kind of the person that he is.
Well, you know what? He's a film professor, first of all, and so. There's that, and he's a nice guy. Working with him as a director was, Jack would always say, that he was an actor's director, right? And there's actors directors and there's technical directors and all this kind of stuff. But I don't ever remember having a conversation with Jack about my character.
Sure.
I don't ever remember him the dance scene's a famous one. It's like the way he talked about the dance scene and Never Sleep Again. How horrible it was and how embarrassing and all this kind of stuff. And the way I recall that happening was, first of all, it's all written in the script. Bumping my ass on the drawer and all that. That's written in the script. It's 3 times bumped. And on the bed, all of that stuff is scripted, right? And, I was over dancing, but that's the way people danced in the 80s. And, the thing is, the entire set broke into applause when it was over with. There was nobody said to me, you know what, that was really bad. I think we need to do it again. Or, maybe you're mistaken. It's the same thing with the screaming, It's nobody ever said to me, you know what, we need to adjust the pitch on your scream, or you're coming, and Hollywood is not shy, that you're coming off as too light is what they used to say. And it's you need basically
light meaning,
but
light meaning too feminine or something.
Too feminine or too gay or too not stereotypically boyish enough. And but the way the script was written, I don't know anybody that you could put in that, because one of the things that people have a problem with that and they don't realize what the real problem is guys were not, because I'm playing a woman's part. That's basically it, and it's and Kim's playing the boy's part, and people at that time were not used to that. And it's boys weren't supposed to be victims and girls weren't supposed to be heroes. The girls, screamed and got chased around and the boy came and saved them, and then he got killed and the girl lived, and
also the girl's very intent on pursuing you as well. I feel like that's kind of out of the norm.
Yeah, she is, and also so is Freddie. You know what I mean? It's there's a guy who wrote a dissertation for Yale that's called Reconsidering Jesse, and it's and his thing is, the big homo in the movie is Freddie. He's the one that's chasing Jesse. Jesse's not chasing him, and they get into this stuff about him being a pedophile because they tried to remove him from that for the franchise. but these kids are all like 15 and 16 years old. So like he's a pedophile. I mean, that's
Right.
what he is. And Robert talks a lot about, yeah, you can see it in the Kickstart, but he talks about seducing me in the movie. And Robert knew everything. Robert
Robert,
Englund's
I
very
mean, that's the most impressive thing I think about Robert is through, for what faults the franchise has, Robert has always understood it, and especially with part two. I mean, when he's speaking on Never Sleep Again, you get the impression that he is being the most frank and honest beside yourself about it, and really understood the movie that you were making at the time.
Well, we get to speak together in Europe a lot. And, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is very popular in Europe. And, and it's, the people there understood it the way that people here are beginning to understand it now. And, that it's not a metaphor. It is not a metaphor for, this is not a positive gay movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
It is, it's very homophobic, and it's of its time, and it's like David tried to spin it as this, like, well, I did it for to liberate the gays and all this kind of stuff, and that's not what it was, and that's not what it is, and a lot of people did cling to it that way, and it's become a real standard bearer. It's taught in every major university in the world in gender study. Right. Nightmare on Elm Street 2. So, it's like it grew into what it's become, and now it's become something that's a teaching tool as opposed to, just the most hated Nightmare on Elm Street movie that you can just bash on it all you want to. But the thing is, it's like when we get into the documentary, you'll have so much fun because we have all the memos, and I mean, it's all documented, and it's about the power struggles inside of, how the star status switched from me to Robert, and,
sure.
Because they decided to make him the star, and the same thing happened to Heather. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Heather was supposed to become Jamie Lee Curtis, not Robert, and but it's all about that, and it's all about, that particular time, 1985, was a horrible time to be a gay actor in Los Angeles.
Well, so kind of moving forward, I mean, how soon after your experience on Nightmare did you decide, okay, I'm done, I need to get away? And I mean, as we talked about a little bit, the creators of the Never Sleep Again documentary, I mean, there was a very big push to find you. I mean, did you go into seclusion? I mean, was it in purposeful? I mean,
oh yes, I walked away. I didn't walk away from. I walked away from a fully active career. People sought me for years for film roles, and my sister-in-law basically had the job of turning people away. And I had gone off the grid basically, and the AIDS epidemic really exploded in New York and Los Angeles in about 1985, and it was like, you guys are far too young, and you weren't there, and you'll never ever know what it was like. But it was like being in Auschwitz. I mean, it was like literally, it was like walking the street. You'd see some guy who looked 100 years old and he was 30, and and all of your friends were dying, and the show business is full of homosexuals. That's just the way it is. Homosexuals and Jews. I mean, that's showbiz. And there are two groups that have a problem with not liking their own in some ways, and if you were Jewish, you're supposed to change your name, and if you're gay, you're supposed to act straight, and I was put in a couple of situations which I found so uncomfortable, lying situations where I was like, what? I didn't get into this to do this. I didn't get into this to climb into some cage and be a prisoner for the rest of my life. And I did it because I loved it, and I felt like it was my destiny, and I did it to be free. You know what I mean? And that's why I left Kansas City. That's why I wanted to be happy. and like I chose happiness is what I chose. And I still had a messy life, you know what I mean? And I had my share of heartbreaks and, I watched people die and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't do it as a liar. And I participated in the change that's transpired in the world. I was an active participant in life. And so now it's interesting when I go out and meet people. It's interesting to be authentically me. Because I was never allowed to be myself. Like if I went into an audition, I was playing a part the minute I went into the audition. Before I started acting, I was playing Mark Patton before I was playing, Jesse Walsh. And if I could have only really been Mark Patton, this person is much more interesting than the other person. And that's why I did want to take a couple of film roles, because I wanted to see what I could actually do out of a really authentic place, as opposed to, worried about how I walked or my hands or, how my voice sounded. I mean, it's sort of like, it's weirdly like I listened to Kate Jenner, and the way that Bruce Jenner talked about Kate Jenner was strangely very familiar to me.
Sure.
There was the private me and that nobody could know. And there was the public me that was not authentic. And there was the daytime and the nighttime me. And like the nighttime me, like if a boy in Los Angeles is an actor, all actors are basically, sluts. I mean, they really are. and it's like, because they are. I mean, it's like, it goes with the culture. It's sort of a gypsy-ish kind of like, and if you're a straight guy and you like make it with a lot of girls, it's like, it's a great thing. I mean, they put it in the newspaper and it's really funny. And like, and if you're a gay guy, it can destroy you. And they put the gay guys over with the women, and like you're a whore, and you don't, so it's like, it's this weird, it's like being a woman,
Sure.
I mean, they treat you. And I always found like when people would insult Nightmare on Elm Street, they would always compare me to a girl. And I thought, like straight guys, especially, they say, oh, you like scream like a girl, or you're like a woman, or what. And I realized, that like so many, and like, it's kind of a heavy, weird thing, but it's like I realized that most straight guys don't really like girls, which is really, it's really surprising to me. I mean, it's like they don't have very nice things to say about them, whereas gay guys really like girls.
Sure.
And I mean, I like women. I think they're great. But so that was really fascinating. And I would think, is that the worst thing you can come up with to say about me, is that I'm like a woman?
Right.
It's pretty heavy stuff, but
Absolutely.
So it's interesting for me, and I think that way anyway. I mean, my mind is very intellectual, and I like to play, with thoughts and stuff. So it's been intriguing to me,
Sure. So,
Well, I was going to say this. You said you felt like you were kind of having to play a character before you were even playing the character. Was that just, Mark the straight guy, or did it go, or Mark who happened to be straight, or did it go into like a whole persona that you felt like you had to be in?
Oh, I literally, the first manager that I had came to my house and went through my closet and went through all of my clothing and threw a bunch of things on the floor. And she said, that's what you're allowed to wear.
wow.
The things on the floor. You can't wear the other things. And don't iron them, because straight boys don't iron their clothes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was this a case of the people around you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Knowing that they knew you were gay and were kind of trying to shape you into something else?
Yeah.
Or like protect you from that or something?
The assumption actually probably at that time, pretty much with all actors, is that everybody was gay. And that you were going to be perceived as gay at some point. And that And and I'd say the split is probably about 50-50 really. And uh, they don't never talked about it. You know what I mean? But they never said, oh, but they'd say like using those code words,
Right.
or casting directors would say things to you like, I lived with a guy and I was not supposed to, like, you weren't supposed to live in West Hollywood. The zip code there was 90069, right? So you weren't supposed to live in a 90069 neighborhood. There were certain cars that you shouldn't drive. You could never go to a gay bar because the agents had people planted there to like see who was coming and going, and so they could sabotage other people's careers.
Sure.
So, and you had you were supposed to have a 310 area code, not a 213. I mean, it's like there were all these weird rules, and they were deadly serious rules because there's a lot of money at stake. And if you just got, like I would go into a casting session and somebody would say to me, like, oh, do you know so-and-so? And I'd say, of course I know so-and-so. I would never say it. I'd say, but and I know that I live with him.
Right.
And you're just letting me know that I'm gay and that I'm not going to get this part. That's basically what it came down to. And generally that casting director was gay.
Sure.
I got all of my jobs through meeting the director, never through a casting agent. I mean, I got through Annette Benson on Nightmare on Elm Street, but really not. I like Annette, but really the person who pulled me through into the movie was Michael Murphy, the line producer, and he pulled my picture out of the trash can and said, "Why haven't we seen him?" And she said, "Oh, he's not right," because I had screen tested for the first one, and he said, "Oh no, I think he's perfectly right." And Michael loved Robert Altman, and I think that's how I got the job,
Right.
But I think if it would have been left to the casting director, they would have never seen me.
Right. So, I mean, it's no wonder. I mean that you disappeared for a number of years. I mean, who could blame you, really? I mean, that's a really horrible situation. That actors at that time were being put through, and that gay men were being put through. I wonder now that you've come back, what it's there are so many people who really love you and love the movie and have just in the pitch video for the documentary. I mean, and even in Never Sleep Again, they touch on it a little bit. Just the amount of people who Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 means a lot to them. I mean, what has it been like just meeting your fans that you had been away from for so many years and kind of going into the documentary?
Well, I was like, first of all, I didn't realize I was famous. That was number one. And I would Google myself once in a while, I admit it, and just to see if I was still the top person, and I didn't really even know what that meant, but I just liked my name to be first. And then there was this weird guy that kept putting his picture in there trying to get in front of me, and I still don't know what he does, but I see his picture, I know all the Mark Pattons, right? So, but I've blown them all, 20 pages back now. So
Sure.
Even the basketball player, the professional NBA basketball player, I pushed him pretty far back too. But no, you know what it's like? They signed me to go out on tour, after Never Sleep Again to do, like Horror Hound, those kind of things. And at first I was very scared, on a certain level, as was Heather. Like Heather didn't want to do them at first either because she thought, who wants to talk to me? You know what I mean? That was her thing. Like, I'm old and who would want to talk to me? And once I realized what the situation was, well, I'm an entrepreneur. So, it's like I decided that I was going to take this fame, and I was going to use it for something. And I made my little plan of, it's like I was going to introduce people to, subjects that they didn't generally talk about at horror conventions. And that's what I did. And I started getting really, really famous. I mean, like when CNN interviewed me and People Magazine interviewed me, and like it's funny, like the documentary, right? We don't have a press agent for the documentary, and literally, we were picked by the Tribeca Film Festival as the very first kickstart that they've ever pushed, ever, is mine, and we've been picked up by People Magazine, Fox, Entertainment Weekly, Entertainment Tonight. Like there's like 25 sources that they all came to us. No press agent went to them. And we did, at first we were like really freaking out. You know, it's like somebody called from London and said, we want to represent you in London. And then somebody from PMK, which is a big publicity agent, a man from there stepped in and said, let me handle this for you so you don't screw it up. It's like,
Wow.
you're gonna, something really fantastic is gonna happen out of this documentary, because it's, when you see it, you'll see it's not just for horror fans. It'll transcend horror, and it's what it really is. And what I try to tell people is it's a historical document. Sure. And it's like, it begins about me, and it is, about me. And it is about Nightmare on Elm Street. So from that Jonesy part, you're going to get a lot of good gossip, and it's really fun stuff, and that's the laughs and stuff. But it really is meant to be a picture of a certain time in history. And I make it, basically for young people now. Specifically for me, it's for young gay people right now, who so they don't know their own history, and they don't know what was happening 20 years ago, and they certainly don't know what was happening 50 years ago. And they were being thrown into concentration camps in World War II and sent to Auschwitz. So, and they have no clue of that. They don't know that 40 years ago it was illegal to go in a bar if you were gay in New York City. I mean, that's the reality of it. And now that people are getting married and stuff, they think like, oh well, this is over. Well, it's not over, and it'll never be over because it can all change in a heartbeat, and it's like, and you need to know your history. That's why like Jewish people keep their history alive, so that doesn't happen again. And gay people need to do the same thing. They need to know their history. And I just wanted to like present it the way it really happened. You know what I mean? And it was like, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 was a very particular film, and it had a very particular karma. And it's like, I think that we did it. We are all in agreement about this, that this movie was made for right now. Right. Like the things that are blossoming out of this movie, I think that's the reason the movie was made. So we would have this conversation now. And wait until you hear, I swear to God, wait until you hear Robert Englund talk about this. I mean, it's like you won't believe the things that come out of his mouth, and the stories that he tells that are heartbreaking. I mean, like really heartbreaking and devious, and it just shows you, like how cutthroat Hollywood is, and sure. And that's what that doesn't surprise anybody. That's a reality. I mean, think about it. If you can make $100 million a year, like you're Robert Downey Jr. and you're making $100 million a year, that's killing people money. I mean, that's like right. Murder in the alley money, right? And sure. But you see the thing, like why it's not over is like you see like what Matt Damon said the other day about like he says it was taken out of context that like gay actors, if they want to be successful, should be in the closet. And boy, did he like backtracked that so
immediately. Like he immediately
he's on Ellen, and it's like
right, because
you don't want to mess with the gays now.
Sure.
It's like, and you don't want to mess with the trannies and none of that, because right. It's like, because they've recognized their power, and they're like, and they use it, and that pisses a lot of people off, and that's too bad. Because, like, we had to sit in the back of the bus for a really long time, and be made fun of, and like when you were made fun of, just really be quiet, because if you said anything, then you were just confirming something that, It's like if you cared enough to say, I don't want to hear the word faggot, then that meant that you were one. And like a lot of people, a lot of really good, nice, straight guys, like were caught in the same trap. I mean, like they would like be appalled at what was going on, but they couldn't like really step into it because once they stepped into it, they would be assumed to be gay themselves. And then like once you sort of get that tag, it just never leaves you. I mean, like it's like the people who insist, it's like that insist that George Clooney is gay. I mean, they insist that he's gay. And like I've worked with George, he's like a very nice man. I don't know anything about him personally, but like he's married to one of the most beautiful women in the world, and he's a 50-year-old man, and he's married, and he's like what? But like at some point, people decided he was gay, and they won't turn loose of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just like and if you're the least bit, insecure about that type of situation, which he doesn't seem to be, then you become very defensive and very protective of yourself with it.
Well, the same thing happened with Tom Hardy recently. He had kind of openly said that he was bisexual, and a reporter in London at a press conference confronted him about it, and he just tore into the poor guy. I mean, it's this kind of sad state of affairs.
Right. And then he went so far as to say, like, we can talk, we're on the internet, so I think I can say this, or you can bleep me out. It's like he went so far as to say, I've never had a dick up my ass.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, that's insane. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, it's like, it's too much information, and like, and the protest is so loud, and so but like girls are kind of leading the way on this. It's like women, I have to say, are more, and I guess it's more acceptable for women to be bisexual than it is for men still. But like there are so many gay people now. It's like Jim Parsons, and I mean like some of the most successful people in show business are gay, and
Sure.
And they're out and they're married and they don't care, and that's all changing. Where the big change will come is with the male movie star, and that's the hardest one. And that I think you'll see that happen in like the next 4 or 5 years. I think the person's already, percolating, and it's going to surprise everybody, because it's not going to be somebody who's acting straight. It's not like they're aping a straight person. They're going to be like identifiably. It's just like I think I'm like a normal gay person. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm just like, I sort of sit in that tomboy kind of Kinsey scale right in the middle of things. I can have fun, but I'm not flamboyant, overtly like what you would think of as a flamboyant homosexual. And I'm not a pretend butch kind of boy. I just
Sure.
feel like I sort of feel comfortable in my own skin. And I think the person who becomes the first 20-something movie star, gay guy, will be that kind of person. And it won't be like, oh God, he looks straight. It'll be just like, oh my God, he's just fabulous. That's it.
Sure.
And
And everything we've talked about today, and I mean, everything that I've seen about the documentary so far, it seems like that's going to be an important teaching tool and an important history tool, for a lot of people. And right now, I mean, you've got 15 days left on a Kickstarter for it. I mean, what can people do to help out at this point?
Oh, well, thanks. You know what? The Kickstarter is a Scream, Queen, exclamation point, My Nightmare on Elm Street. And it's screamqueendocumentary.com, or just come to my Facebook page, Mark Patton, or put Scream Queen, and the one that's not Ryan Murphy is us, because we're getting a lot of press. And you can spread the word, or you can give us some money. We're about at almost halfway now with our Kickstart goal, and our movie is shot. I mean, it's like
Sure.
the film is shot. It's what we're kickstarting the money for is for the fair usage of Nightmare on Elm Street 2. So, because we have a lot of that film in the in the movie, whereas like Never Sleep Again didn't use so much. We use a lot. I mean, we use like Robert talking about a scene, and then it turns into the actual scene in the movie, and that's very, very expensive. And so
And very necessary too. Like I feel like you can't
oh yeah,
properly tell the story.
you couldn't, like, especially to people who don't know it, you couldn't tell the story. Like when he's talking about the oral thing and the thing, there's a lot of that, you know, and it's but you know, Warner Brothers doesn't cut you a break. And it's historically you're allowed to use your own images if you're talking about yourself, but it's a big legal process, and most of our money is going to lawyers actually. And so, I have a lot of money in this already, and a lot of time, and like the equity, the sweat equity in it is like we're in the deep end of the pool. This is not like a $20,000 documentary. So you know, so people can help us that way, and you know, it's going to be done one way or another. And I would like anybody, if somebody has $30,000 and they want to write a check for it right now, just do it. And I'll take you up to, you know, we have one thing where if you bid $5,000, we'll fly you to any convention in the world. And it's all paid for, and you sit with me at the table. And then there's all kind of really cool gifts and stuff. And none of it is cheesy. It's not like, you know, it's not like a baseball cap. You know, I mean, you do get a baseball cap, but it's more fun stuff. And, you know, and everybody who's the supportive people around us always say, you know, because in the middle you get very nervous. Like it's like being an actor. It's like, oh, you know, everybody loves me, but they don't love me enough to send me $5, you know. So, and it's really on the $5 and $10 that you make the Kickstart, you know, and you know, and everybody's been really, really supportive and say, look, first of all, the money all comes at the end. You're doing like really, really good, and it's like you get your money at the end because people put it off as long as they can. And I know in my heart of hearts that we've come way too far, and that this is going to happen. And I don't know the manner that it's going to happen, but I have like utter faith that it's all going to work out the way it should. So, you know, I think the day the Kickstart's over, I think we'll be over that line. And if we're not, then somebody will step in and fix it for us, you know. And you know, and whatever it is going to be really good, and it's going to be for the best of the thing. But you can help by like talking about it too. And also, you know, it's like we spend a lot of time on the internet explaining to people who are like, you know, going like, oh, you know, we don't need to know what does he know about Freddie, you know? And it's like, and we try to like gently explain to them that this is not what it's about, you know, that it's a different thing. And once people begin to see it, like when they first saw the Kickstart, so many heads like exploded because they were like, oh, now they understand what we're doing, you know. And so, and yes, it's already been, you know, it's already been optioned by universities all over the United States. Film schools.
That's fantastic.
So, and I've gifted it to the University of Missouri in Kansas City as the first university to show it. And I'm going to actually do a syllabus, a course there, and in the winter session. And that's my hometown, and they teach it already in gender studies. So that'll be my first university sitting, and so that's exciting to me. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, it's already a historical document, so it's great.
Well, Mark, I really appreciate you doing this. I mean, this has been an absolutely incredible conversation, and you know, and we'll do whatever we can to spread the word about the documentary. And I think what you're doing is really, really important.
I do have a quick lightning round question, though.
Oh, sure, you can. Yeah, do. We didn't really get to talk about the fun stuff.
Well, I just want to ask one real quick thing. Like, do you, just off the cuff, your favorite moment or scene from Nightmare 2?
Oh, Grady's death and Grady's killing. That whole from the minute I enter the bedroom through when I throw the glass in the mirror, the glove in the mirror, is, I think, perhaps like one of the best moments in the entire series of Nightmare on Elm Street. I think it blows me away, and it was really hard to do, and it was a lot of work. But I think the acting acting in it is really good. I think Robert and I, as Robert Russler and Robert Englund and I, were all we worked really good together, and I never realized, until I've known Robert Russler since he was like 14, and it wasn't until lately that I realized what a good actor he was,
Sure.
and because he's not Grady, you know what I mean, and it's he's actually more stupid than Grady. He's smarter than that, but he's born like a Virgo like me. He's like very, very smart, and he really played that part very, very well. And the more you look at it as time goes by, it's he did a really, really good job, and so that's my favorite part. And I like the glove in the eye, and I loved. I actually loved. I didn't love the dance, and I didn't love the parakeet, but I've learned to I've learned to appreciate the dance, and but I loved making it. And one thing I would always want to say to people that I don't think comes across clear enough is I've never been embarrassed about being in Nightmare on Elm Street, and I've never not liked the movie. I've always been proud of it. And it's like, even when other people didn't like it, I didn't really care, because I knew, that like there's a movie, and it's like, this was my test to see if I could carry a movie. You know what I mean? And it's a big test, you know what I mean? And I do carry the movie, you know what I mean? And I put it on my shoulders, and the New York Times said when it was done that if you want to see how a movie's supposed to be supported by a lead actor, watch this movie. And for me, that was like what I needed to know. It's like, and I could do it tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Because I know how to do it.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the thing that, for all of the things that people have picked apart about the movie, everyone, you've got the exploding parakeet and the dog with a human face and whatnot, but you've got, everybody really was giving it their all, and nobody seemed to be phoning it in. And those, the nightmare movies that work the best are the ones, and any horror movie for that matter, are the ones, where you have real actors doing their jobs, and really giving it their all.
Especially pre-CGI, it's
sure.
Like, you believe, it's like there's one guy who says, I can't remember which critic he is, but he said, given the material, like these people played it as brilliantly as it could be played inside of what it was. Do you know what I mean? Like, you really believed them as people. And Clu Gallagher is a great actor. I don't know if you follow his career, but he's been in everything, and he's in Tangerine right now, like a movie that was shot on Go phones about transsexuals on Hollywood Boulevard, and it won like the audience award at Sundance, and there's Clu, in the back seat, having a heart attack, but it was. And it's like, and as you pull the movie apart, also, it's so funny that like people who hate the movie so much, the most iconic moments, actually, some of the most iconic moments come out of Nightmare on Elm Street 2. If, you're all my children now. That is probably the Nightmare on Elm Street moment, and it's certainly the one that people who don't know Nightmare on Elm Street always go to represent the film. And and Robert's makeup and the music and Jacques Hankin and the way it was shot and all of that stuff is all, there's some really fabulous stuff in there. And then there's some mistakes too. But there wasn't a franchise then. There was just was just a second movie that they didn't care very much about.
Right.
They just wanted to make some money. And that was it.
Right. Well, Mark, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it, and maybe once the documentary is out and we get a chance to see it, maybe we could chat again after we've gotten a chance to see it and shared it with our audience.
Well, I would love to, and then you'll have a bigger show.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and. For We're Gonna Need a Bigger Show, this has been
Cameron B. Giles.
And this has been Mike D. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will catch you next time. Goodbye, and sleep tight. We're gonna need a big show.
turn it up.